Hey guys, today I'm going to be showing you how to paint that flamingo canvas that you got. So in your kit you should have gotten a pre-sketched canvas. This is an 8x10 size. There might be like a 12 by 16 out there somewhere, but all of the new ones are 8x10. You should have gotten 3 brushes, a medium-sized flat brush, medium round, and a small fine line brush. And you would have gotten your paints, all your paint colors. There should be 10 colors total, well, 9 plus there's a clear coat. So let's go ahead and get started. This one's gonna be kind of in depth. This is like a medium level. So first, what I like to do, and it could be different for other people, but I like to base in my background first. So when I see I already missed a line, so I'm going to add that in really quick. Okay, and now we're good. So you're going to trace around everything that's not going to be a background color, like your flower, your flamingo, any of your vines, leaves. And today we're going to do the background in black and shades of black. You could also do it in like a light green, but or really any color you want. So you really could go any color you want within the palette that I gave you, but I'm gonna do black today, and I'm gonna start with my round brush and get in some of these tight places, and I'm just gonna do straight black for right now, just to get it done, and then I'll come back in some places with some gray, probably in these areas where we don't want the background to be competing too much with the beak. We really want that beak and head to stand out. That is the focal point. So this is just going to take a few minutes, and just take your time. Try and be careful, not like that, but more careful than me. So this is just going to take a little bit of time. This is probably one of the most time-consuming parts of this project. It's getting that background filled in, and then the next, like, most difficult part will be when we do the beak and eye area, because we really want to take our time on that and make sure it looks as good as possible, because like I said earlier, that is really the focal point, and it's what's gonna make your painting really look fantastic. It really helps if you hold your brush down like a little bit lower, like a pencil, and you're going to have better control of your strokes. I should really have like some music on while we're painting in the parts that take a long time. Don't worry if there's paint strokes. We like to have paint strokes in our artwork. It makes it just really more interesting. It doesn't have to be completely smooth. The brush strokes don't have to just all go in one direction. And when you're doing your background and your painting in general, I like to go all the way to the edge, on all edges. I do not like to leave that raw edge. It just makes it so much more finished if you paint all the way around the canvas. It's the details that matter, especially when you're doing something like this. Details really do matter. And really take your time when you're doing this. Just make sure you got all of the spots covered. If you feel like you need to have a smaller brush in some of these tight areas, just go ahead and switch over to your small fine line brush if it'll help you. The nice thing about having the pre-recorded video is that I know that some of these paintings can feel really intimidating, but I'm telling you, I guarantee you, every single person, it doesn't matter if you don't know how to paint at all, you don't know how to draw, you can do it if you just pay attention and follow the instructions. You can totally do this. It is not hard. But what I was getting at is that you can just stop, pause it, go take a breather, come back to it the next day, because when you walk away, it's gonna look different to you the next day. Sometimes you'll miss something, sometimes you'll just be frustrated with it and just don't know where to go anymore, and just take a break, come back, and you'll be like, oh, this looks This looks fine. I don't know what I was tripping about. So just take your time and relax and just enjoy your little painting project time. Get some wine, make a margarita, whatever you want to do. So what I meant by finish your edge, I'm going to use the big flat brush because that's going to do a better job of getting that edge. So you're going to want to come down and make sure you get that whole edge filled in. Almost there. Really let your brush do the work, so make sure you load it up good and just press it into that edge. Pull it and let it do all the work. A lot of people will take and just get a little bit of paint on the tip of the brush and think that that's the only surface that should be touching the canvas, but you really want to use and utilize the whole brush and the shape of that brush. And by changing the pressure that you put on it will also help your brush guide right up or down or whatever line or area, in whatever area you're in. This is really starting to look cool, and we don't even have any color in it yet. We're almost done filling it in. If you find that your paint is getting a little thick, just add a smidgen of water and that'll help it flow a little bit nicer on your canvas. A lot of times if you work in an area that has a ceiling fan, which I have a ceiling fan that's on right now, and it will tend to dry out your paint a little bit faster than you would like it to. So just keep an eye on that, and if you find that your paint has like a skin on it, or if it's getting too thick and you've put it in your palette, then just add a little bit of water and you'll be fine. You can bring it back. All right. Rinse that brush out. Whenever you're switching colors or brushes, make sure you rinse out that brush, because we don't want to be mixing colors and getting our paint all muddy. Okay, so I'm just getting the edge of this canvas. you see a few spots that you just didn't get to cover very well, you can always come back to those later. But for the most part, I should be good. All right. So now I'm gonna just come in and lighten up some of those areas that are gonna be around our beak, and also maybe around where the feathers are gonna come up. So I put a little bit of the black in the center of my palette, and I'm gonna add a little bit of white. We're gonna go for like a medium gray. And I'm just gonna come in and just like rub it in a little bit, rinse my brush out, come in with some straight black, and then from the outside in, just gonna try and just blend those two together. And if it's just not doing what you need it to do, come back with some more gray and just kind of blurry up that line. Go back and forth. You want to make sure, be careful to not get too much water in there. There we go. It feels a little bit better. And then we want to do the front side too with a little bit of that gray. And we're just gonna kind of rub it into the canvas along that line, pull it back, and just try and blend it out. So it's just very subtle. I think I want a little bit more brightness in here, so I'm going to bring a little bit more up in there. Just a little bit more. And maybe a little on this neck part too. Oh, we missed a spot, see? Just kind of rubbing it into the canvas and just trying to like blur it out into the black. I'm gonna just get a little bit more right here, and then we're gonna call it good with the light gray. We just want it to be really subtle. Just a little bit up top. And you can also like use your fingers to blend it out a little bit. And I forgot that little spot right there, so I'm just going to come back and get that. And work a little bit of that gray into there too. All right, that'll work. Okay. Now we're going to go ahead and base out our flamingo in light pink. And we're going to do the whole body, his head. We're not going to do the beak. Just whatever parts are going to be pink or a shade of pink. And I am using the medium flat brush for that. And just like with the round brush, really utilize the shape of the brush. So you can just do a flat stroke, right? Just your basic, oh, this is what shape the brush is, that's what it should do. Well, no, this is a very useful brush. You can use the edge and just pull it along like you were kind of, if you're house painting, you like to cut in, you can cut in with this brush. You can also use it on the side, and that'll give you more of a broad line. So you really utilize the shape of the brush. And by adding a little bit more pressure, you're also going to have better control of the stroke and of that line. And if you miss a couple spots, don't worry about it. We're coming over this. This is a layered painting, so we're coming over with lots of other colors. So if we miss a little spot, I'm not going to worry about it because we're going to be painting over it. This is looking very deco, very 80s, 90s. Very Miami Vice. Sometimes I like to use the brush flat and just kind of wiggle it into the area that I'm trying to cover. Don't worry about covering up any lines or like the feather lines. We're still going to be able to see those a little bit. Take a mental picture. And something else that really is helpful, if you take a snapshot of the pre-sketched canvas before you start, which now we've already started, but you can do it at this point too, because we really haven't covered up too much. But take a snapshot with your camera so you can see where those lines and feather areas are, and like your petals, and like take a look at your beak and all the things that we're basically going to cover up with paint. But if you take a snapshot with your phone, then at least you'll be able to reference those later. I'm not sure if anybody has done the tambourine class, but with the tambourine, what's nice about that is I pre-sketch them, but if you flip it over, you can still see the image drawn on it. So that one's it's kind of helpful. You don't really have to take a picture of it before you start. And these top feathers are not going to be quite as rigid as they are right now. We're just basing them in. We're going to really bring in some fun strokes and different colors once we get moving. All right, almost there. And again, you're going to want to pull that paint all the way over the edge. So all right, looking good. And at this point, if you feel like you need a little break, pause it, walk away, get some coffee, get another drink, take a potty break, answer the door, whatever you need to do. All right. Pull up my reference. Okay, now we're going to do the lines, or the vines, not the lines, the vines. So I gave you a pretty straight up green color. That's kind of boring. It's just your regular old green. I want to adjust that just a little bit. So I'm going to scoop some into the middle, a decent amount, because you don't want to run out. And just to kind of give it some more interest, I'm going to add some yellow. A good amount of yellow, and mix that together. You're going to get like a like a key lime kind of color. Okay, that's a good jumping off point. It's going to be our base green. And then this way, and I'm going to use my small brush too. So this way, we can still go a little bit darker and get some depth in those leaves, or we can go a little bit lighter and pop in some highlights. So what we're gonna do is just kind of follow those little vine lines. And it's kind of fun to roll your brush back and forth as you make that line, as you're pulling that line. It'll kind of give it a little bit more interest, make it a little wavy. Get all of those leaves. Okay, I think we got all the green on this side. Your little green guys over here. You can always touch that up if you kind of go into it a little bit. Don't worry about that. And if you want your leaf to kind of come into him a little bit, that's cool too. And we're probably going to paint over that, but we can always go back and bring it back in. So like maybe with this leaf up here, we can go ahead and extend it a little bit and bring it in. There we go. Cool. There. Then it feels more like he's in there and it's not just like wallpaper. Okay. If you want to bring that vine around and some of these vines around the canvas, cool. Because again, that's just like some of the little details that are really gonna make it just like that much more interesting. So like this leaf that we missed the little lip of, we want to bring that around, and then these guys there. Look at how much cooler that looks. Alright, we're going to leave that like that for now. We can come back to it a little bit later. And now we're going to start with our beak area. So this is really the most difficult part, the beak and the eye. And it's all about having patience and layering. So we're going to start with some white, and I know it's already, your canvas is already white, and look at all those cool lines that I gave you are now going away. So taking a snapshot would really help, but I'm gonna try and be careful and just let some of these pencil marks show. So just go right up to the edge. And just so that you can still see a little bit of it. So I'm going to go around here with a small brush, so we'll just come back to that. But if you want to use your small brush for this whole area, then by all means go for it. But I'm using this medium round. And again, I'm going to just go to the edge of where this little nostril area is, because I don't really want to lose that. I want to know exactly where it is at. I'm going to rinse my brush out. Got the beak area all filled in. And we're going to come back and do right around the eyeball. And just take your time. You want to have a steady hand. There we go. Okay, now we're going to come in with some of this, and let's just go ahead and keep our small brush with this like flesh tone, and we're just going to start giving this beak some depth and interest. So you just want to kind of, it can be a little bit watery, or water it down a little bit rather, and just kind of work it in to that paint. So your beak should still be a little bit wet, so you're going to want to just take a little bit at a time and work it into that paint. And we're not going to go over the whole beak with it. We just want to kind of bring some interest in, maybe just get a little bit off of the edge, work your way in, just give it a few spots, and I will bring this close so you can see exactly what I'm doing. But let's see, we have some more down here. And then a little bit underneath this line. We want it to have some color difference. And then you're going to want to go around that eyeball again. So it's just very subtle, but it's really going to make a huge difference as you're building up those layers and building up that color. All right, so now that we have the beige in there, we want to pump that up a little bit more, and we're going to make kind of a brown kind of tone. So we're going to take that beige, a decent amount, because we don't want to run out of it. You never want to have to like remix a color and hope you get the same color. And then just the smallest amount of black, just a tiny bit. That's probably too much. You can always add, it's much more difficult to take it away. So let's see what we think about this. It's kind of not brown enough. This is more of like a khaki. Okay, I'm going to do some crazy stuff. I'm going to get a little bit of red, just a tiny bit. Okay, and a little bit more of that black. Tiny, tiny, tiny bit. A little bit more. Just slowly building that color up till it's exactly what we want. All right, I think I'm gonna stop with this. So we have like a medium, like taupey, like a medium taupe, putty kind of color. Okay, so the areas that we just went over with the beigey color, we're gonna go over again, but even a little bit less. So we want to go around that eyeball, just kind of give him wrinkles. I'll show you what I did. So we're just kind of giving him some wrinkles, making it just a little bit more intense, building up those layers. And we want to bring just a little bit out, and don't be afraid to, like, if you feel like you were too aggressive, just rinse your brush out and then come back and just kind of rub some of that paint out. So I'll do that again. So I'm just gonna be really heavy right here. Oh man, that's just too much, right? Okay, I rinse my brush out. Rinse it out, dab that water off, and then come back and just kind of blend it out. And if you feel like it's still too much, you can always come back with a little bit of white if you need to. There. There's nothing that can't be fixed. So we want to bring a little bit more brown in, like underneath his nostril. And again, I'm just gonna rinse my brush off and then come back and just blend that out a little bit on that one edge, so it just looks like a really like intentional shadow. And then in this area, and I'm just gonna blend out the, and see, you'll see there's like a little water drop on my brush. It keeps going down, you can't see it, but make sure you wipe off your brush completely. You don't want any water drops falling on your painting and then pissing you off. Oh, like that. Man, it's alright. Rinse the brush off and then just blend it out. There. Alright. I'm gonna want to put a little bit up here. And just take your time. This is where you really want to take your time. And you can do this. You absolutely can do this. Alright, and I want a little bit more down here, where the black is going to be coming into the white section. And just to define this edge here. Well, that was a little aggressive. Rinsing that brush out, making sure all of the water drips are off, and then coming back and just kind of blending that out. And then I'm going to come back again with a little bit of white because I feel like I lost something there. There we go. It's looking really good. Okay, we are almost done with this beak area. So this is the next part. We're going to mix some orange, and we're going to take a good scoop of yellow. We just need a tiny bit, and a smaller scoop of red, and we're just gonna just mix it until we feel like we've got the color that we want. I think this is good. Okay, show you what we got. So this is the orange we made. It's kind of like a tangerine. And we're going to take and push some of that color like right into here, come down, and a little bit on top, just to pop a little bit of color into this beak. Like, looks like he like really went feasting on some shrimp. So the orange, that's going to be the most translucent color on the color wheel, and it's kind of good for this particular application because we want to just like slowly build up that color. And again, I'm rinsing off my brush bringing it back and blending it out. And just kind of rub it into the canvas. And then come back and just build it up. And then a little bit on the top part of that line. I'm going to show you a finished beak from a tambourine class that I did. This one's really pretty. So that's a finished beak. So that's kind of what we're doing with this orange color. We're just bringing some in down here, and then we're going to bring just a touch in on the top end of that. So just a little bit, and just like really light touch with your hand. And rinse your brush out, get the water off, and your brush should just be damp. And you're gonna just rub some of that color out. And then I'm gonna come back with a little bit of white and just kind of bring some of that lightness back in just a little bit. It's a lot of back and forth sometimes, so you'll do one thing and then you'll go back over it with something else, and then you'll do something else, and then you'll go back over it again. Maybe just a little bit up here. All right, I think that that's pretty good. I'm going to do a close-up so y'all can see what I just did. So that should be where you're at right now with the beak. Now we're going to take some of that yellow, straight yellow, and we're going to drop in his eyeball. So just do some straight yellow. There we go. While we still have some of that orange, I'm going to take just a little teeny tiny dot of the black, mix it in with that orange. We're going to get it like kind of like a baby poopy color. We're going to take that, and where you just did your eyeball, we're going to go around the outside, just a very fine line. Rinse your brush out, grab a little bit more yellow, and kind of work that edge. We want it to mix together. We want a really subtle gradient. From like that amber brown color to a really vibrant yellow. So if that means come back with some more yellow, kind of work it out to the edge, then that's what you gotta do. Okay, I'm feeling pretty okay with this. Now you can see it up close. So we just have a very subtle gradient of the brown to the yellow. Now, since we got all that goodness, I want to bring some more of that brown around the outside where we did that like kind of taupey color, just a little bit. And maybe right here, just to give it a little bit more definition. So show you again. So we're just giving him a little bit of wrinkles around the fleshy part of his eyeball. All right, now it's time to add the black. I didn't give myself enough black, so I'm going to add a little bit more. Hopefully I gave you enough black. All right. This is another part where you need to really have a steady hand. And I took some black and I'm watering it down just a little bit, just so it's like a nice smooth consistency. All right, so now what we're gonna do, we're going to go all the way around the edge of that eyeball, very fine line. So if you need to like take a deep breath, blow it out, relax yourself, and then just kind of settle in there and just do a really fine line traced all the way around the outside. Really light touch on your brush. It's better to have it like finer than you need than to just like glob down a big thick line and have to fix it later. You are definitely gonna rather add to it than have to try and start all over, because this is where there's not really a whole lot of coming back. You just really would have to wait for it to dry and kind of start all over. So I'm gonna feather some of that edge out just so that it's not quite so. And what I did was I rinsed my brush out and then I came back. I still have a little bit of a damp brush and your paint should still be a little bit wet, and I'm just kind of feathering that out a little. Bring my reference back. Okay. Okay. Now we're going to just finish up this beak and everything that has like black on it in this area. So I want to bring some of those lines around, just a couple little like defining lines here. And if you just want to follow what I'm doing, take your time, just a little speck there. And this is going to be the longest line that we have. So from here and then pull it all the way down. Take your time. The little nostril. And now fill in that whole bottom section. And you're going to want to kind of bring it up in like a little bit of a zigzag, or just like pull up some pieces. Alright, he's looking so great. Now is a good time to drop in his pupil. Just like a little polka dot. Alright. I'm going to let that part chill out for a minute. And we're going to go ahead and start doing some more fun stuff with the flamingo. Alright. Go back to my reference. Here we go. Okay. So we started with that pretty petal pink. And now, all right, we're gonna take some of that coral color and just start building up some interest with strokes. So I want to take the coral, and it doesn't have to be really precise, but I like that little swipe there, and maybe like a little bit of this action back and forth on his forehead. And so see, I went over the edge. Don't worry about it. We can always come back with some black at the end, touch that up. I also want to really define this like cheek chin, and then a little bit around his eye. I'm going to take and bring some down the neck. And just work it back and forth. It's just kind of whatever you're feeling. And we can always touch that up too. Don't worry about that. Okay, we're just gonna, there. We're gonna touch up that leaf, don't worry. And this black section. Okay, come back. And just be really loose with your strokes. This is where we're really gonna start bringing this bird to life. Okay, so now we're in the body, and we're gonna just like we did very loose strokes kind of all along the head and neck, we're gonna do the same thing with the feather edge. So I'm just gonna use this coral, and then I'm gonna go in and give him some fresh feathers, and then detail in this area where we had feathers down here. Just kind of zigzag strokes. And then on the top edge. All right. That's where we're going to stop with our coral for now. Okay, now we're going to go and bring in some of that hot pink. And I'm using a flat brush still. Let me get some coffee. Okay. Pick up some of that hot pink, and we're just going to kind of do the same thing that we did with the coral, but just bring in just a little bit more interest with that extra fun, funky color. Just kind of work it in. I'm getting a little chunky because my paint's drying up a little. So just if you have some little, like this, it creates a skin and makes like it a little bit chunky, just pull them out. Or leave them in, they'll add texture. I'm just pulling some of that color through here again, and again just kind of extending those feathers. Just be really loose with it. It's cool if it kind of has a lot of texture. I lost my picture. Okay. And now we're going to bring that light pink back in and just hit some highlights with that, and we'll pretty much be almost done with our flamingo. So think about, say your sunshine is coming from this direction, so your lightest areas are going to be right here, the inside of his neck, maybe like a little hit on his cheek, the front of his neck here, And then the tops of your feathers. So think about that when you're bringing in that light pink again. Let's see, I'll just... And if you feel like you kind of lost some of the coolness of those other colors, you can always bring them back. You can always just like go and dip in and work some back in. So we're gonna get the front of his neck. And just be, like I said earlier, just be really loose. You really want them to look painted. Bring a lot of that, because this is going to be like the top part of like where you're getting a lot of the light at the top of those feathers. It's looking really fun. Okay, I think I want to deepen up my hot pink and give them a little bit darker, like raspberry color. So I'm going to take some of that hot pink and then a little bit of the red. And kind of make a raspberry color. Just to hit the low light kind of spots on him. Okay, that's pretty good color. So it's just like a little bit of like a raspberry medium pink, darker pink. So I want to get right here and a little bit more right there and back on his eye, and then yeah, I like that color, it's nice. And then bring some of that down his neck. Here. Yeah. All right. And then I lost some interest up here, so I'm going to bring a little bit of that coral back up here. There. And a little bit of that cool pink that I made. All right, feel pretty good about that. So our flamingo is pretty much finished. I'm just gonna touch up his, like this little part right here, because it got a little bit crazy. So I'm just gonna really define that edge so it's just a little bit cleaner. No more messing with it. I do see where I went over the black. We can clean that up a little bit. There. Just fix that. Okay. All right. Last little bit with the beak is we're gonna make that medium gray again, and just give them a few little highlights. So black with a little bit of white. Make that medium gray. And come in, just kind of define a few edges. So a little bit in there, a little hit down his beak line. Okay, so I'll bring that up close so you can see. Just a few little swipes just to really like highlight that beak. And then you can also like clean it up a little bit if you went over. So at the very, very end, we're gonna go ahead and pop in some white highlights, but that's gonna be our last final step. So we're going to go ahead and start with these petals, these flower petals. And I guess you're just going to need to decide what color you want your flowers. I mean, you can really make them any color you want. I think I'm going to do the light pink, and we can use some of that hot pink to just kind of define the petals. Let's just pick one and start. So you're going to base it in with the light pink. I suggest using the small brush, and you want to be able to see a little bit of those edges. I know this is going to be a long video. This is a really almost a little bit overachieving kind of painting for a beginner, but even if you are a beginner, I'm telling you, your painting's going to look fantastic if you just take your time, have some patience, and follow it step by step. So another thing that kind of helps when you're doing a painting that is a really like long undertaking, something that will help kind of regain perspective is to take a break, snap a picture of your painting with your phone, because it's going to look different in a picture, and you're going to be able to see things that you don't necessarily see when you're like staring at it for, I don't know, what are we going on, 2 hours now? 2 hours and some minutes. It really is very helpful. Alright, I feel like we should be able to knock these flowers out pretty quickly. So we're just basing them in with that pink, that light pink, and we're just kind of rubbing that paint in. And don't forget to bring that over the edge. So just bring a little, like, just a little bit of a, like a globby, little tiny bit over that edge. It's really going to make a difference. Okay, next. I think these are supposed to be like little peonies, like little tiny peony buds, but the leaves aren't really very peony-esque, or like a climbing rose. I don't know what a flamingo would be doing in like peony bushes or like a rose bush, but hey, who are we to judge? And again, we're going to bring this flower over the edge too. So we're just going to make it look just like kind of like ruffly. Alright, so we got our flowers based in. Let's see how that hot pink looks on its own. We'll go back to our first one. So the darker color is going to be at the base of the petal. And you're just going to kind of rub that color in. I really think we want to use something that's not quite so bright, but we'll do a couple steps. So we're just putting that darker color in where the petals overlap, or the hot pink color rather. Just a little bit, and just like kind of rub it in. And then we're going to use that like raspberry color that we made. Yeah. And work that in. That's gonna look a lot better. And just blend it out. And then just hit the top end, just like the tops of the petals, with some white. You can pull some of that down. So top edge of the petal, and then pull some of that down. Pretty. So we're just going to do that with all of them. That was pretty easy. And again, we'll start with, we have based them out in the light pink. We're going to take some of that hot pink and just kind of blend up from the bottom of the petal. This is just kind of going to be kind of our little accent of middle color. All right, pick up our raspberry, which was the hot pink with the red, and that's going to be like our dark color. And then the white is gonna go along the top edge of the petal, and you're gonna pull it down. And if it's like a spot where you're not really gonna be able to tell, or you're not sure, just do a little bit, like a little spot or something like that. I don't like that, so we're gonna take and blend that out. Maybe go back over it a little bit, clean up that edge. There. That's better. Now to this one, and again we're working that pink up to like the middle, or like 2/3 of the petal, the hot pink, just kind of in between. And then with that raspberry color, to mix a little bit more. Okay. And that from the bottom up, blending into that hot pink. It's going to be a little bit difficult to figure out like the petals, but if you can kind of see where that pencil line is, you can kind of fudge it in there, or just put some little splotches. That's fine too, because then when you go back with your white and pull that color down, you're not gonna even know. So top edge of that petal, and then pull it down. And some of these petals are kind of folded over, so like this top one, for instance, is going to be mostly white. Maybe a little bit right there. All right, good enough. And the last one. There. Our last little petal. And then white on the top edge. And then pull that white in. White. And then on this one. And the top. And then don't forget about your edge. All right, we're so close. Your masterpiece is almost finished. All right, now for our white highlights. Bring your white around. We're going to start with, and if your paint is getting a little bit gloopy like mine is, just thin it out with a little bit of water. Okay. You're going to want to pick up a good amount of paint on your small brush. We're going to give this guy a little glisten in his eye. So I'm bringing this really close, getting steady, and just a little polka dot, just like that, and then a teeny tiny one next to it, just like that. Look at that. Now he's alive. All right, I'm going to take some of that white and just kind of hit it, just a few little highlights, maybe like one down there, maybe a little swipe there, and then a few around his neck, and then some to accent his body feathers. All right. All right, I want to have maybe like a couple little spots right there to really like highlight. One right around his eyeball, and then a few little swipes on the top of his head. Maybe one under his chin. And remember, this is where that light is hitting. See, look at, I want to do his beak again. No worries, we can fix it. There, fixed. All right, how am I feeling about this? Looks pretty good. Maybe a couple more little swipes on his neck. Just maybe a little bit right there. Oh, we forgot about the second color on the lines. We'll come back to that too. So that's going to be the last step. So we're at the second to last step. Man, this is a real undertaking. All right. Now we're going to do some really bold swipes with white to highlight those feathers. So just load up your brush, make sure you have a good amount of paint on it and that your paint is flowing really nicely. It has a good consistency. You don't want it to be too thick, you don't want it to be too thin. It's just right. And relax, hold your brush like a pencil, and we're gonna just do some swipey zigzags. And you're going to want to load your brush up each time with another globby of paint. Remember, we had like some coming down this way and some more here and maybe a few there. It looks beautiful. It looks beautiful. All right. If there's a few spots that you want to touch up, that maybe your pink went over into your black, it's a good time to go and do that. Clean those edges up. If you feel like you want this to be a little bit cleaner, so maybe there we go. You want to highlight that a little bit more. This kind of got a little out of control over here, so I'm going to bring that back. I just want those lines to be really tight, nice and clean. And then up at the top. And I can see some of the white coming through my canvas. Clean that up. All right. Mostly satisfied with that. Okay. And now back to our green. So remember way back at the beginning when we started this painting 3 years ago, we took some green. All right, I'm going to make sure we make up enough green. I'm going to use the medium round brush just to mix it so we have enough. Green, rinse your brush out. Yellow, get that cool key limey green. And then in this empty bin that I have, which yours should have like a clear coat, which I didn't pour the clear coat because I'm not going to show you how to do that, but basically what you're going to do with that clear coat that I gave you is once your painting is completely dry, you can just go over the whole thing with that clear coat, and it'll just help some of those colors pop, and it'll help protect your painting. All right, so medium green, medium green. I'm going to add a little bit more yellow, make it lighter, and a little bit, normally I would rinse my brush out, but I'm not really going to be using the white anymore, so a little bit of white, and we're going to get like a really pretty light, like apple color. Okay, so let's go back to our leaves. We really want them to be very dimensional. So wherever you feel like you need it to be a little bit more opaque, go ahead and hit those spots, or where you painted over. So like here I painted over, so I want to bring those back. Okay, so we're touching up right now where we want it to be a little bit more opaque. Again, we're touching up where we want it to be a little bit more opaque. My camera keeps stopping because it's like, haven't you filmed for long enough? No, I'm not done yet. And then we're going to get that regular green, the green that I gave you. And we're just going to kind of hit in the middle, a couple little swipes in the middle of our larger green sections and our leaves. We just want to add some depth. A little swipe down the vines. See, we're just kind of going in the middle section of the original piece. We still want to see that medium green. Okay, rinse your brush out. And then with that light green that we made, we're just going to hit some highlights. Remember, our sun is coming from over here, so the light sections are going to be to the left. And we want to just make some little swipes where the sun's going to be hitting. Make sure you have enough paint on your brush, especially if it's still wet. And then remember, so your sun is going to be coming from here, and just and don't forget about the stuff over the edge. And our final little areas. Oh my gosh. I can't even believe we finished this. Amazing. It's done. It looks fab. Sign it. You deserve it. And there you go. All right. Congratulations. I hope you had fun. Frame it, put it on the wall. Tag me. I want to see the amazing work that you did. And we'll see you next time.